Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest battlefield is not the land under our feet, but the space between our ears. The most powerful weapon you possess is not in your hands, but in your thoughts. Control your mind, and you control your life. The mind is the governor of destiny. Every decision, every success, every failure begins in the mind. Before a man wins in life, he must first win in his thoughts. Before a woman breaks through the ceiling of society, she must break through the limitations in her mind. If you don't take control of your thoughts, something else will. Fear, doubt, insecurity, distraction. You see, the mind is a servant, never neutral. It either obeys your purpose or it serves your problems. And whatever dominates your mind eventually directs your life. What you meditate on, you magnify. What you magnify, you manifest. Control your mind, because your thoughts are the seeds of your future. Every habit begins with a thought. Every addiction begins with a thought. Every breakthrough begins with a thought. And if you don't manage your thoughts will manage you, often toward a destination you never intended to reach. How do we control the mind? It begins with discipline, choosing what enters. You don't allow anything to enter your body. Why let anything enter your mind? Guard your thoughts the way a soldier guards the gates of a city. Next, feed your mind what aligns with your purpose. If your vision is greatness, your mind must be nourished with greatness. Read what builds, listen to what lifts, speak what inspires. Finally, renew your mind daily. Your mind collects dust just like furniture. Left alone, it gathers the dirt of doubt, the grime of gossip, the clutter of comparison. Clean it, challenge it, change it. Your mind is a gift. Don't waste it. It's a tool. Don't misuse it. It's a garden. Don't let it grow wild. Control your mind, and you'll unlock a life you were always meant to live. Thank you. Your mind is the gateway to your life. Whatever enters your mind gains access to your future. That is not a metaphor. It is a law. Just as a city with no gates is vulnerable to invasion, a life with an unguarded mind is exposed to confusion, frustration, and destruction. The thoughts you allow into your mind are not passive, they are seeds. Some grow into ideas, some into habits, and some into entire destinies. What you think consistently, you will become eventually. Think about it. Every decision you've ever made, good or bad, was first a thought. Every dream you've chased, every fear you've surrendered to, every opportunity you've taken or missed began in the mind. The mind is the control center of your life. If someone wants to influence your behavior, they don't touch your hands. They speak to your thoughts. If you want to change your results, you don't start by fixing the outside. You start by addressing what you allow inside your mental gates. We live in a world full of voices. The media is talking. Friends are talking. Social platforms are shouting. But the most important voice you will ever hear is your own, the voice inside your head. And that voice is shaped by what you've allowed into your mind. If you feed your mind confusion, it will speak confusion. If you feed your mind truth, it will speak clarity. That's why you must treat your mind like a gate with a lock, not an open field where anything can roam freely. You must become the gatekeeper of your own thoughts. When you allow negativity into your mind, when you entertain thoughts of defeat, fear, bitterness, envy, you are handing over the keys to your future to things that were never meant to control it. And once those thoughts take root, they do not leave quietly. They grow. They affect how you see yourself, how you interpret opportunities, and how you relate to others. A small thought, if repeated, becomes a belief. A belief, once accepted, governs behavior. That's how entire lives are built or broken, on a single unchecked idea. So, if your mind is the gateway to your life, the question becomes, who or what are you giving access to? Are you feeding your mind with purpose, with wisdom, with things that elevate and strengthen your identity? Or are you letting in voices of confusion, lies, insecurity, and noise? There's a powerful truth here. You can't always control what knocks on the door of your mind, but you do control what you allow to enter and stay. You control what you meditate on. Just like a security guard doesn't stop people from coming near the gate, but determines who gets to come in, you too must be discerning. Not every thought deserves a seat in the house of your mind. Some thoughts need to be evicted the moment they arrive. The people who succeed in life are not those with perfect circumstances. They are those who have learned to guard their mind and direct their thoughts. Even in the face of adversity, they maintain focus. Why? Because they understand that what happens around them is less important than what happens within them. They choose to think on things that build rather than break. They don't allow outside chaos to become internal noise. You can always trace the fruit in your life back to the root in your mind. If there's confusion, look for confusion in your thoughts. If there's peace, look for order in your mind. If there's consistent failure, it's worth asking, what beliefs are operating beneath the surface? What ideas have been given permission to guide you? Most people want change, but few realize that lasting change starts at the level of the mind. You can change your clothes, your career, even your relationships, but if your thinking remains the same, your life will soon reflect that same pattern again. That's why discipline of the mind is not an option. It is essential. You train your body, you must also train your thoughts. The mind doesn't automatically lean toward truth. Left alone, it will drift toward fear, toward comparison, toward doubt. That's why it must be constantly shaped and corrected. You don't control your mind once. You do it daily. Like a garden, it requires weeding, watering, and tending. You remove what doesn't belong, and you plant what does. And here is the hope. You don't have to be a prisoner of your thoughts. You can take authority over your mind. You can reject what is false and embrace what is true. You can silence the noise and anchor yourself in clarity. When you begin to intentionally guard your mental gates, everything else begins to shift. You start to walk differently. You speak with conviction. You pursue your goals with focus. You live with purpose because your mind is no longer a battleground. It is a tool aligned with your vision. Remember, your mind is not a playground for random thoughts. It is the command center for your destiny. Guard it well, because what you let in will eventually come out and shape everything you do. Many people live as if they are at the mercy of their minds, as if their thoughts have power over them they cannot resist. But one of the greatest truths you must understand is this: you are not your thoughts. You are the master of your thoughts. You have been given the ability to choose what you believe, what you dwell on, and what you act upon. Your thoughts are not rulers, they are tools, and if you don't rule them, they will rule you. This is where many lives go wrong. A person has a negative thought, I'm not good enough. Instead of challenging that thought, they accept it. They begin to identify with it. Over time, that single thought becomes a lens, and soon everything they see, including themselves, is shaped by that one idea. But here's the truth. Just because a thought visits you does not mean it belongs to you. Just because a voice speaks doesn't mean it's telling the truth. You are not obligated to believe every idea that crosses your mind. Thoughts are like passengers on a train. You don't have to engage with all of them. You choose which ones ride with you and which ones get off at the next station. That choice is what separates the distracted from the focused, the anxious from the peaceful, the confused from the wise. The power to filter, to decide, to affirm or reject. That power is yours. It has always been yours. You simply have to rise up and use it. Now let's be clear. Rolling your thoughts doesn't mean you'll never have a bad one. Negative, unhelpful, or even toxic thoughts will come. Doubt will knock. Fear will whisper. Shame will try to make itself at home. But you must decide that your mind is not a hotel for every passing idea. It is a fortress, and you are the gatekeeper. You were not created to be a slave to your thoughts. You were designed to direct them. That means you must begin to challenge the lies that try to disguise themselves as truth. When you think, "I'll never succeed," you stop and ask, who said that? What evidence supports that? And does this align with the truth I believe about myself? You interrogate your thoughts like a guard questioning a stranger at the gate. You don't just let them in because they sound convincing. You must remember, every thought carries a destination. If you entertain thoughts of fear long enough, you end up at a place of paralysis. If you dwell on comparison, you arrive at envy and bitterness. But if you hold on to thoughts of purpose, you move toward vision. If you rehearse gratitude, you end up in contentment. Your thoughts are taking you somewhere, so be wise about where you let them lead you. This is not just about motivation. It's about mental stewardship. Just as you wouldn't leave your home unlocked at night, you should not leave your mind unguarded during the day, because the thoughts you tolerate today become the beliefs you live by tomorrow. And the beliefs you live by determine the reality you create. It all starts in your mind, but it never ends there. You may not always be able to control what pops into your head, but you can control what stays there. That's where your authority lies. You have the power to redirect your focus. You have the right to replace unworthy thoughts with worthy ones. You can speak over your mind the truth of who you are, even when the noise inside tries to argue otherwise. One of the biggest lies people believe is that their mind has a mind of its own, that they are victims of their moods, their memories, or their mistakes. But your thoughts are not your identity. They are inputs, not definitions. Just because you feel something doesn't make it true. You must learn to separate your identity from your inner chatter. Train yourself to respond, not just react. Train yourself to pause before giving power to a thought. Discipline your mind to reflect before it accepts. That's where maturity grows, in the space between thought and agreement. When you learn to master that space, you learn to master yourself. People who shape nations, lead movements, or overcome impossible odds are not superhuman. They are simply people who have learned to master their inner world. They don't allow every feeling to become a fact. They don't give every thought a throne. They lead their thoughts instead of being led by them. And you can do the same. Speak to your thoughts. Direct them. Don't just let them speak to you. When a negative thought shows up, talk back with truth. When a fear rises, answer with courage. When insecurity whispers, remind yourself of your worth. Your inner world listens to your words, so speak with authority. Never forget, you are not what you think. You are what you choose to believe. Your thoughts are like clay in your hands. They can become walls that limit you, or bridges that carry you. It all depends on how you shape them. So rise above the noise. Take the reins. You are not your thoughts. You are the master of them. Undisciplined thoughts create undisciplined lives. That may sound simple, but it is one of the most overlooked truths about success, peace, and purpose. Your life doesn't fall apart overnight. It unravels in the silence of undisciplined thinking. Every outward action is born from an inward pattern, and if the mind is allowed to wander without direction, the life that follows will wander without focus. When you don't train your thoughts, you live by default, not by design. You react instead of respond. You repeat old patterns instead of creating new ones. You drift instead of drive, because wherever the mind goes, the life follows. You can never go higher than your mindset. You may dream of greatness, but if your thoughts remain scattered, lazy, or toxic, your reality will be small, chaotic, and reactive. Discipline in life starts with discipline in thought. Before a person becomes physically disciplined, waking early, exercising consistently, managing time, they must first discipline their thoughts. I can do this. I must do this. I will not give up. Without that mental foundation, external routines eventually collapse. Discipline is not a behavior. It is a mindset that produces behavior, and if your mind is undisciplined, no external change will last for long. The problem is that many people don't even realize their thinking is undisciplined. They think worry is normal. They believe being constantly distracted is just the way life is now. They accept mental laziness as part of their personality, but these are not harmless habits. They are patterns that sabotage purpose. A scattered mind leads to a scattered life. A restless mind produces restless decisions. A fearful mind builds a fearful lifestyle. You don't have to be outwardly chaotic to have an undisciplined mind. Even high performers can suffer from this. When their focus is divided, when their thoughts are cluttered with negativity, when their energy is constantly spent reacting instead of creating. Just because someone looks productive doesn't mean their thinking is structured. And eventually the cracks will show, because no matter how polished the outside may seem, the inside will always lead the way. You see, discipline in the mind is not about being rigid. It's about being intentional. It's choosing what you dwell on, rather than letting emotions or random thoughts drive the day. It's developing the ability to stop a negative spiral before it becomes a storm. It's knowing how to pause, reflect, and redirect. That's what strong people do, not because they're perfect, but because they've practiced thinking with purpose. A disciplined mind is focused. It's not overwhelmed by every new idea or opinion. It doesn't panic at every problem. It knows how to hold a vision steady even when the circumstances are shaking. A disciplined mind is not easily distracted. It knows what matters most, and it brings itself back to that priority again and again. That's how progress is made, not in bursts of brilliance, but in daily returns to purpose. You must begin to see your thoughts as territory that must be governed. You don't let weeds grow wild in a garden you care about. You don't let strangers walk into a home you value. So why let unworthy thoughts dominate the space where your dreams are born? Undisciplined thoughts are not neutral. They will lead you places you never intended to go. They will push you to act in ways that contradict your character. They will sabotage your relationships, delay your progress, and rob you of peace. The mind is a powerful instrument, but power without order leads to destruction. Imagine a machine with limitless energy but no controls. That's what an undisciplined mind is like. It can create, solve, and build, but without guidance, it spins in circles, or worse, tears down what it's meant to lift up. Your mind was never meant to run wild. It was meant to be stewarded. So how do you discipline your thoughts? You start by paying attention. Awareness is the beginning of mastery. Notice what you're thinking. Ask yourself, is this thought helpful? Is it true? Does it serve the person I'm becoming? If the answer is no, you redirect, not once, but consistently. Discipline is not a one-time act. It's a daily decision. You choose to show up for your own mind every single day. You also train your mind through what you feed it. What are you reading? Who are you listening to? What kind of conversations are shaping your mental environment? If you feed your mind junk, don't be surprised when it produces disorder. If you feed it wisdom, it will begin to work with clarity. You cannot expect excellence to grow in a mind that is filled with noise and confusion. You must also practice mental stillness. A disciplined mind is not just focus. It is quiet when it needs to be. It knows how to shut off the distractions, turn down the volume of the world, and listen to its own conviction. Silence is not weakness. It is where strength regroups. Make space for reflection, for prayer, for stillness, and you'll find your thoughts becoming sharper, stronger, and more aligned. There's no such thing as a disciplined life without a disciplined mind. And there's no such thing as a fulfilled purpose without mental order. Don't just hope for change. Shape your mind so that your life begins to change naturally. Your mind is your first battlefield, your first garden, your first foundation. Win there and everything else will follow. Master that and you'll be equipped to master anything else. Purpose gives your mind direction. Without it, the mind becomes like a ship without a compass, always moving but never arriving. Thoughts without purpose chase distractions. They jump from worry to fantasy, from fear to confusion. But when you have purpose, your mind gains clarity. Your thoughts begin to organize themselves around a destination. Purpose turns mental activity into meaningful focus. Many people are overwhelmed not because life is too complex, but because their mind lacks direction. They wake up with no clear why, so every what feels urgent. Every opinion feels loud. Every interruption becomes a crisis. But a mind anchored in purpose is not shaken by noise. It knows what matters. It knows what to ignore. It knows what to pursue and what to release. Purpose doesn't remove problems. It filters them. It tells your mind which battles to fight and which to walk away from. Without that filter, the mind is easily exhausted. It becomes busy but unproductive, reactive instead of proactive. You may have 0 thoughts in a day, but only a few truly matter. Purpose helps you recognize which ones are worth your attention. When you don't have a clear purpose, your thoughts become self-centered and survival-based. You worry about what others think, how to impress, how to belong. You react to life instead of shaping it. But once purpose enters, it awakens something higher. It forces your thoughts to stretch. It shifts the question from what do I want right now to what am I called to build. That shift changes everything. Purpose brings order. It gathers your mental energy and aligns it with your future. Instead of spending time entertaining doubt, you begin to invest time developing discipline. Instead of obsessing over past failures, you start strategizing for growth. Purpose does not erase the past, but it puts it in perspective. It turns even your pain into preparation. The mind, when filled with purpose, begins to recycle experiences as wisdom, not wounds. The most dangerous person is not the one with all the answers. It is the one with clear purpose. That person cannot be easily distracted. They do not run from difficulty. They face it because they understand their direction is more important than their discomfort. And when the mind aligns with that kind of clarity, fear starts to lose its grip. Comparison fades. Confusion retreats. Because purpose becomes the lens through which all decisions are made. This is why so many people struggle with indecision. The problem is not lack of intelligence. It's lack of clarity. When you don't know your purpose, every path looks possible, but none look right. Your thoughts keep circling. What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if I make the wrong choice? But when purpose leads, your thoughts begin to settle. Not because the road is easy, but because it is aligned. Purpose also simplifies the mind. It helps you say no without guilt. It removes the pressure to please everyone. You begin to realize that not every invitation is for you. Not every opportunity is aligned with your assignment. And this mental discipline is what frees up energy for what truly matters. You stop being spread thin. You stop being mentally exhausted from trying to be everything to everyone. You become focused. You don't need a perfect plan to find direction. You need a reason. You need a conviction that guides your thinking. And purpose provides that. It does not come from the outside. It is not found in applause or titles. It rises from within when you begin to recognize that your life is not random, that your existence carries weight, that your thoughts matter because your impact matters. When your mind connects with purpose, your thinking matures. You stop thinking in terms of just pleasure or pain. You start thinking in terms of legacy. You begin to ask, what am I leaving behind? What am I building that will outlast me? These are the thoughts that sharpen your priorities. These are the thoughts that lead to action that matters. There is a quiet strength that comes from living with mental direction. You don't need to chase trends. You don't need to argue every opinion. Your mind is at peace because it knows its lane. It knows its mission. That kind of mental security is rare, but it is available to anyone who embraces their purpose. Your purpose is not just a goal. It is the structure your mind needs to thrive. It gives your imagination something to serve. It gives your emotions something to submit to. It gives your decisions a deeper logic. Without it, the mind is like a powerful engine with no steering wheel. It spins but never moves forward. You can have talent, intelligence, and opportunity, but if your thoughts lack purpose, all of it will be misused or wasted. Don't just try to control your mind. Give it a mission, feed it with meaning, direct it with vision, because the mind is not meant to wander aimlessly. It is meant to build, to solve, to create, to conquer, but only when it is led. When your mind knows why you're here, it begins to align everything else. Your time, your focus, your relationships. Thoughts once scattered become strategic. Emotions once unstable become manageable. Your energy once drained becomes intentional, because purpose is the compass, and without it, the mind loses its way. But with it, there is no limit to what you can achieve. A renewed mind is a weapon. Not just a tool, not just a resource, but a weapon. It is your greatest defense against confusion, your sharpest edge against fear, and your most reliable shield against failure. Because life will throw challenges your way. It will confront you with questions you weren't ready for, pain you didn't expect, and situations that try to unravel you from the inside. And when that happens, it won't be your emotions, your money, or your talent that saves you. It will be the strength of your mind. Your mind is the battlefield. That's where the real war is fought. Long before you see results in your hands, victory is decided in your thoughts. If your mind is clouded, life becomes chaotic. But if your mind is clear, focused, and renewed, you will be able to walk through fire and not be burned. You will face pressure and not break. You will encounter storms and still know peace. The problem is that many people try to change their lives without renewing their mind. They try to build a new future with the same old thoughts. They want new outcomes with outdated perspectives. But a changed life always starts with a changed mind. If you want to rise, your thinking must rise first. If you want to overcome, your thoughts must be trained for battle. Because confusion doesn't just show up in your life, it starts in your mind. Fear doesn't just control your actions. It takes root in your thoughts. So how do you renew your mind? You do it the same way you train your body, through repetition, resistance, and intentional practice. You feed your mind truth. You challenge limiting beliefs. You learn to silence the lies and elevate the truth. You examine the thoughts you've accepted and ask, does this serve me? Does this align with my purpose? If it doesn't, it must go, because renewal requires replacement. You don't just remove the old. You fill your mind with the new. A renewed mind is not a passive mind. It is not a mind that avoids discomfort. It is a mind that leans into growth. It questions patterns. It seeks wisdom. It confronts fear's head on. Fear loses its grip when the mind is trained to think in truth. Because fear is always based on distortion, on what might happen, what could go wrong, what might be lost. But a renewed mind sees clearly. It sees through the fog. It doesn't ignore risk, but it refuses to be paralyzed by it. Failure is another enemy that thrives in the unrenewed mind. When your mind is not renewed, You see failure as final. You take every mistake as a reflection of your identity. You stop trying, not because you're incapable, but because your thoughts have convinced you that failure defines you. But a renewed mind sees failure differently. It sees lessons. It sees redirection. It sees the potential for growth in what others call defeat. That perspective doesn't come naturally. It is built intentionally. There are people with brilliant potential who never step into their greatness because their mind has been hijacked by fear and doubt. They have the talent, they have the opportunities, but their mind is still operating from old programming. The voices from childhood, the trauma from rejection, the pain of past mistakes, and so they sabotage their own progress, not because they want to, but because their mind has not been healed. This is why renewing the mind is not a suggestion. It is a necessity. Until the mind is renewed, freedom cannot be sustained. When your mind is renewed, your identity becomes clearer. You no longer attach your worth to your performance or to people's opinions. You begin to understand that you are not your past, not your pain, not your failures. That clarity becomes your foundation. It anchors you when life tries to shake you. It gives you confidence that doesn't need to be loud because it is deeply rooted. That's the power of renewal. It makes your peace unshakable, your decisions more precise, your presence more impactful. You cannot wait for life to get easier to renew your mind. You renew your mind in the fire. You do it while life is still messy, while the questions are still unanswered, while the future is still uncertain. Because that's when the enemy of your mind, confusion, fear, and despair is working the hardest. That's when you fight back by shifting your thoughts, one belief at a time. You speak truth until it becomes the new default. You rehearse wisdom until it replaces anxiety. This is not just motivation, this is warfare. A renewed mind doesn't come by accident. It comes by deliberate practice. It is the result of choosing to think differently, repeatedly. Of catching every thought that doesn't align with truth and refusing to give it space. That's how transformation happens. Not in an instant, but over time, thought by thought, belief by belief. You don't need to be perfect to have a renewed mind. You just need to be committed to letting go of what no longer serves you, committed to facing what's been holding you back, committed to becoming the kind of person whose thoughts are strong enough to carry purpose, steady enough to build vision, and sharp enough to cut through every lie trying to stop you. A renewed mind is not just a better way to think, it's a new way to live. Your future is not waiting out there somewhere in the distance. It's already present, already forming, right now, and your thoughts. The life you will live tomorrow is being shaped by the way you think today. Your vision, your habits, your decisions, your relationships, your success or stagnation, they are all downstream from your thought life. If you want to unlock your future, you must first unlock your thinking. Nothing changes on the outside until something shifts on the inside. You can change your location, your relationships, your environment. But if your thinking remains the same, your results will repeat. The mind is the container of potential. It holds the dreams you haven't acted on, the strength you haven't tapped into, the wisdom you haven't applied. It is not your situation that limits you. It is your perception of your situation. It is not the world that traps you, but the walls you've allowed to remain inside your thinking. Many people are not stuck because of lack of opportunity. They're stuck because of mental boundaries. They've accepted ceilings that were never meant to be there. Someone told them what they couldn't be, and they believed it. Someone dismissed their idea, and they buried it. And over time, those thoughts became prisons, subtle, silent, but powerful. Their life became smaller, not because they lacked talent, but because their thoughts stopped growing. That's how it happens, not all at once, but slowly, You stop imagining, you stop planning, you stop expecting, you stop risking, and before you know it, the future you once believed in is locked behind the bars of fear, doubt, and mental fatigue. You're still moving, still doing, still showing up, but your thoughts have disconnected from destiny. Your vision has been muted, and when your mind disconnects from your future, your energy follows. Your actions become shallow. Your passion fades. This is why you must take your thoughts seriously. They are not random. They are not harmless. Every repeated thought becomes a belief. Every belief becomes a decision. And decisions shape destiny. If your thoughts are small, your future will be limited. If your thoughts are negative, your future will be heavy. But if your thoughts are bold, clear, and focused, your future begins to expand. Your future cannot grow beyond your mental capacity to see it. That's not just philosophy, it's principle. Every person who's ever done something great first saw it in their mind before it became reality. They believed it when no one else did. They imagined it before they had evidence. That imagination was not fantasy. It was faith in action, because faith is not just a feeling. It is the discipline of believing in what you cannot yet see, and the courage to align your thinking with it until it becomes real. Your thoughts are either building bridges to your future or barriers around your present. You have to ask yourself daily, what am I thinking that is empowering my future? What am I thinking that is limiting it? If you never take inventory of your mind, you will repeat mental patterns that cancel out your own progress. You will sabotage relationships because you expect rejection. You will avoid opportunities because you expect failure. You will waste time because you don't believe what you do matters. This is why the future belongs to the renewed, the intentional, the mentally prepared. You can't wait for everything to be perfect to start thinking higher. You start right where you are, with what you have. You begin by feeding your mind the kind of thoughts that match the future you want to build. You focus on solutions, not just problems. You think in terms of growth, not survival. You discipline your internal dialogue so that it supports your vision, not undermines it. The quality of your inner conversation determines the quality of your external results. You may never say it out loud, but if you're constantly telling yourself, I'm not ready, I don't have enough, or I'll probably fail, then don't be surprised when your life reflects those assumptions. The subconscious does not argue, it accepts what you feed it repeatedly. So if you feed it fear, it will build a future of avoidance. But if you feed it hope, truth, and strategy, it will begin to unlock doors you thought were closed. There is power in aligning your thoughts with your purpose. That alignment creates flow. It creates confidence. It creates clarity. Even when circumstances are uncertain, a mind aligned with purpose keeps moving forward. It sees problems as part of the process. It sees waiting as preparation, not punishment. That mindset creates endurance, and endurance is what builds legacies. You are not born to repeat the past. You were born to create the future, but that creation begins in your thinking. Don't expect transformation to happen by accident. Train your mind to expect more, to prepare for more, to stretch toward more. The limits you're facing are not permanent. They're programmable, and the key to reprogramming them is thought by thought, belief by belief. Your future is too important to be left to chance. Take it back from every thought that told you to play small. Free it from every belief that said you weren't good enough. Release it from the mental chains that said you had to stay the same. The future is already inside of you. The question is, are your thoughts aligned with it, or are they blocking it? You are not a prisoner of your past, your environment, or your circumstances. You are only limited by the boundaries you've accepted in your mind. Control your mind, and you control your direction. Renew your thoughts, and you rewrite your future. Purpose is not something you chase. It's something you align your thinking with. And when your mind is clear, focused, and disciplined, nothing life throws at you can shake the foundation you've built. Your future is not waiting to happen, it's waiting to be unlocked. And the key is already in your hands. It's your thoughts. Don't surrender them to fear. Don't allow confusion to hijack your destiny. Train your mind to serve your purpose, and you will become unstoppable. So I leave you with this: master your mind, and you will master your life, because the greatest battlefield is within, but so is the greatest victory. Now rise not with noise but with clarity, not with hype but with mental strength. Your future begins the moment you decide to think differently, and that moment is now.